Not easy to follow Bette Midler, but I'll do my best. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Swed, and I was a high school classmate of Sue's and a devoted lifelong friend. And I have the privilege of delivering the eulogy of Sue today, and it was created with love by her brothers and sisters. So I will just say, I'm the messenger, not the message. In times of loss and in times of grief, when the love and comfort of family and friends was needed most, Sue was always there. She was that family. She was that friend. Today, as we grieve, we come together as family and friends to mourn her passing and to celebrate the life of our sister and friend. Sue's life was a life of service to her family and to her community. Being the oldest of 8 kids could not have been easy, but Sue was a natural leader. Well, she wasn't really a leader, she just made us do what she wanted. When playing outside, Sue always found a seat in the wagon or on the sled while the other kids would team up to pull her. According to Dan, Sue was a sweetheart, but got meaner the older she got. She beat us up more than the nuns did. But Sue did become the older sister that all of her siblings wanted. Now, I understand that Sue drank more 7-ounce bottles of Pabst while riding in Dan's car than Dan's drank in his entire life. And is this true, or is this just a rumor?
That might be a little story.
Okay. You can always check with Dan after the service. Sue was also known to have gotten rid of a couple of speeding tickets over the years, although she warned it would never happen again. And to her younger brother and sister, who didn't get to share their childhood with Sue, her greatest gift was when she left home for college and they would finally get their own bedrooms. Now, over the years, her love of family grew to include 13 nieces and nephews. More than anything else, she loved being Auntie Sue. As part of the Ripon community, she was a police officer for 30 years. She was honored in 1996 as Police Officer of the Year in Fond du Lac County for saving 2 lives in 2 separate incidents. She went on to set an example of public service for generations to come by organizing the inaugural Shop with a Cop program in the city of Ripon, and then served as the city of Ripon's first DARE officer. And for those of you who are not sure what DARE means, it stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. She went on to pursue many of her other interests, including her Longaberger baskets, many of which she collected after visiting the company's basket-shaped headquarters in Ohio. She collected books, memorabilia, and autographs from some of her favorite movie and television stars and historical figures, including a signed personal letter from astronaut Jim Lovell, the commander of Apollo 13. At home, she would often have Cher playing in the background and would tell stories of seeing her in concert. Even as her health began to fail, she would talk of her dreams of travel, of visiting Ireland, of taking that cruise to Alaska. It is okay for us to grieve today. It is how we honor Sue. It is the beginning of her legacy. Though her body is no more, Sue will live on in our hearts and our minds. May she rest in peace. I'm not done yet. I would also like to share some of my own comments. This is a short story about Sue and I that perfectly reflect the principles by which she led her life and her unwavering integrity. And I apologize for reading it. Usually I wing it, but it's Sue and I want to get it right. Back in 1970, I was a junior at Princeton High School, and I was eagerly anticipating our junior prom. I knew it was something I wanted to participate in, and yet I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. I was active in sports and many other related activities, but I had never even considered the idea of dating anyone. I had plenty of casual friends who happened to be girls, but it never occurred to me to date one of them. So as this date approached, I realized I needed to actually ask someone to join me. Being naive and an introvert, I knew that this would be a challenge. So I came up with a great idea to ask the most popular girl in our class. You know, go big or go home. And I was pretty sure that she hadn't been asked yet, so I launched my plan. I was way too nervous to actually talk to her directly, so I decided a well-worded note would be the best alternative, given that she sat directly behind me in advanced algebra. Keep in mind that I was far from the most popular boy in our class. And just to be clear, Sue Kallas was far from the most popular girl in our class. But I digress. I actually passed my note to this popular girl without even looking back, fearing the obvious outcome. It took no more than a second to get my answer. And I will spare you the details, but I felt defeated and dejected. So here I was, reevaluating my decision-making abilities and realizing I needed to go in a different direction. I needed to go deeper into who would be the best choice for me. I decided to look for someone with a personality similar to mine, someone who shared my values, someone who was kind and understanding, and maybe even someone who might be excited that I actually asked her. It didn't take me long to realize who fit that description. You guessed it, it was Sue Kallas. I knew her quite well because we shared many classes together over the past 2+ years. I spent many hours at her house because 2 of her brothers, Dan and Dennis, were in Boy Scouts with me. And we'd get together at their house and hang out. Their whole family was great. Their parents were kind, and they treated me just like family. Everything seemed perfect, so I hatched my new plan. I was beaming with confidence, and there would be no written note this time. I would approach her in the school hallway between classes and ask her directly. So 2 days after my initial rejection, I came up to Sue and asked her if she would like to go to prom with me. And with a slight smile, she responded with those 3 little words that we've all heard so often: "No, thank you." Well, I was beside myself. I'm going, what are you, I'm saying this to myself. I can't say that to Sue. But, it's amazing how fast confidence melts into defeat. And I was completely demoralized, much more so than my first rejection, because I truly felt she'd say yes. So life lesson number 1, confidence is overrated. Ultimately, I did go to the prom, however, alone. I spent an hour watching everyone have fun while I'm sitting on the bleachers. Yes, I actually did head down to the gym floor for a dance or two when it was fast and you didn't need a partner. But shortly thereafter, I headed home, where my mother asked how it went, and I lied and said it was great. So fast forward 25 years. And over those years, I must have interacted with Sue hundreds of times, especially in our early 20s, because I had just graduated from UW-Madison and I had my first job up on the square. And I get a phone call at work from Sue. She said she was in town, and I said, "Wow, great, what are you doing here?" She said, "I'm at UW Hospital. I have cancer." I was stunned. I asked for permission to leave work early that day. I ran to the flower shop and bought a dozen roses, and I headed to her room. We spent hours together in her room over the next few months as I tried to cheer her up and give her hope. She was ultimately able to beat her cancer, but not without some lasting physical effects that would haunt her for the remainder of her life. Through all of our interactions, I never asked her the obvious question: why did you say no to my invitation to go to the prom? So finally one day, 25 years later, I did ask. I said, "To this day, I do not understand why you said no to me." And she was pretty matter-of-fact about it. She said, "I heard people talking that you had already asked another girl to the prom who had said no to you. And I refused to be somebody's second choice. A huge smile came across my face, and I said, Sue, I couldn't be more proud of you. I said, that is exactly what you should have done under those circumstances. And that is a microcosm of who Sue was. She could have easily said yes and enjoyed the prom with me, but she wouldn't be able to look herself in the mirror without knowing she compromised her values. These are the same unwavering values that made her a great police officer. The same values that she tried to instill in all of her troubled youth she worked with during her entire career. Sue always considered herself an underdog, and she could easily relate to these troubled youth who probably felt the same way she did. Standing firm on your values can sometimes make life more difficult, but Sue would have it no other way. I think if we all had Sue's values, the world would be a much better place. I know for a fact that I'm a better person for having known her, and I feel that she has set a very high bar for the rest of us to follow. Sue's path in life may have been a difficult one, but it was also a very effective one as well. She has touched so many people in a positive way, and I am grateful to have been one of them. May she rest in peace in the knowledge that she left the world in a better place than it was before her. Thank you very much.